access. Great. Well, just a little bit about me. Like I said, my name's Kelly Boyer. I'll be the project director with All In. I just joined the Anabaptist Disabilities Network in June in this role. So about, what is it time? 4 months in? My math's probably off there, but I come with a background in children's ministry and disability services. I've been in roles from camp director to children's pastor. Most recently, I was working with a large community here in Chicago as director of mission and culture. And when I first met with Jean, this was back in January, and heard about the All In project, my heart just lit up with excitement for what ADN was going to be doing. Some of my favorite worship experiences have always been moments where people of all ages and all abilities are able to be gathered and be worshiped together. These are moments when worship has been experiences that sees a difference, really, whether that's difference in age or ability, really not as a disruption, but sees difference as an invitation to discover more of who God's heart is, more of God's heart. And I really think that's what this project is about. Which leads me to the vision for the All In project. Our vision for All In is that together we will be taking steps towards creating intergenerational worship that reflects the full diversity of the body of Christ, inclusive of all ages and all abilities and experiences. The All In project, a little background, it's funded through Lilly Endowment's Nurturing Children Through Worship and Prayer initiative. What this means is that our primary focus for this project for All In is including children and children with disabilities being brought in and included in worship. Really, with this project, we're seeing intergenerational worship as a bridge to creating worship that is also accessible for everybody. And this is really exciting because this work isn't happening in many places, at least not on a regular basis. And so we're excited to change that. Oftentimes in church, we've gotten used to being separated out by age or ability or even season of life in some instances where kids are in children's church, young adults in the sanctuary, older adults elsewhere, and then maybe even people with disabilities in their own ministry space. And while that has its place, the All In project is really attempting to bring us back together as one body. Well, we're going to go there in a second. And together we're going to be creating spaces that aren't just about accommodating people, but really being transformed by one another. When this grant was just a dream, we had many conversations with Anabaptist congregations about what they were wanting and what they were really needing related to faith formation in their setting. What we heard from those conversations was a desire to move beyond worship that really relied on literacy or lectures, and to explore worship that could be more tactile, more multisensory, and more accessible. Worship that would engage people of all ages and abilities. Which leads me to our project goals, which you got a sneak peek of. Our project goals, first is that more children of all abilities would be participating in and leading intergenerational worship. Second is that children of all abilities would deepen their connection with God and their faith community. A big part of intergenerational worship is creating a community that is a community of mutuality and reciprocity. So relationships between people of all ages, and we would add all abilities, have a mutual exchange of learning and helping one another. So it's not just the adults who are learning, who are giving and teaching, but the children are giving and teaching and serving as well alongside the adults. And there's a give and take and mutuality to it. Our third goal is that parents and caregivers would feel worship is a place where all of their children can belong. Belonging is a big essential thing for everybody, but especially for the parents and caregivers of those with disabilities, to experience and know that your community will embrace you and your family as you are is just necessary for anything. And so I just recall there was a story of one of the families that I was working with a few years back. The mom shared with me a moment where her son was asked to bring in the candles in the Advent procession, and her son was disabled and was in a wheelchair. And so for her, being asked for him to participate and contribute in the worship service was the moment of belonging for her, where she knew that her community, her congregation, didn't just see her son as someone to receive or be cared for, but for someone who could serve and worship alongside them. And so that's the kind of belonging we want to be fostering through the All In Project. The fourth is that pastors and congregations will learn how to plan and lead intergenerational and multisensory worship services. We'll go more into detail about what participation will look like for congregations in just a bit, but our goal here is to really be equipping the participating churches so that they feel comfortable and confident leading worship that is intergenerational and accessible. And we have a really stellar lineup of experts who will be teaching, which I'm going to cover. And we want to make sure that you guys have the support that you need to make these changes in your congregation. And then lastly, our final goal, is that pastors and congregations will feel capable of working through the discomfort of organization change. Change within any organization can be challenging. When something has been one way for a really long time, it can be rattling to try something new. Sometimes in communities, you have people who are really excited about change, and then other people who are really hesitant. And with this project, we really want to make sure that no one in your congregation is left behind. So we invited Betty Priest to be a part of our congregation, or to be a part of our project. And she's going to be coaching and offering her expertise on organization change, and be coaching you all throughout the duration of the project to really make sure that everyone is bought in and comes along. So in summary, these are our goals and what we're setting out to do with the All In Project. I'd love now for us to look at what participation will mean for the congregations that opt in. Let's start first with what participating congregations will receive. The first is training and coaching from experts on faith formation, intergenerational worship, disability inclusion, and facilitating congregation change. This is where our project consultants, our experts come in, which I'll share with you now. I can highlight some of those that we'll be learning from. So over the course of this project, we have Dave Sinnis, who will be joining us. Dave will be sharing his expertise in intergenerational worship and faith formation. He'll be offering teaching at our kickoff retreat, and then he'll also be offering virtual coaching for congregations as we progress. Dave is an associate professor of faith formation at the Atlantic School of Theology in Nova Scotia, and is the founder of Faith Forward, innovative ministry for children, youth, and families. He's also the author of some incredible books that I would recommend, A Gospel for All Ages and Children's Ministry in the Way of Jesus. So we're really excited to have Dave collaborating with us, and he'll be at the kickoff retreat next April. Next is Betty Priest. I mentioned Betty earlier. She'll be our consultant on congregation change and navigating that. She'll also be leading workshops at our kickoff retreat, and she will be also offering small group coaching throughout the duration of the project. A little bit about Betty. She comes to us with 32 years of experience working with both congregations and organizations, and is an expert on all things organization change. She's the CEO and co-founder of Credence Consulting, and she has her PhD in conflict resolution. So we're really grateful to have her too. Next is Dr. Sarah Barton. Sarah Barton's going to be leading some of our virtual sessions with us, and she'll be sharing her expertise in trauma-informed ministry. Sarah's a professor at Duke University. She has a dual faculty appointment there in occupation therapy and theological ethics. She's also an author of Baptized Body, Disability and the Practice of Christian Community. And bonus fun fact is that she was a professor of both Jean Davies and myself, which I just find delightful. Another consultant that I wanted to highlight is the Soil and the Seed Project. This is an organization that creates worship materials, songs, liturgies, activities for the whole family to do together. And Seth Chrisman and Greg Yoder of the Soil and Seed Project are collaborating with us, and they're going to be creating printed worship resources and recorded music just for all-in congregations for the first 3 years of the project. And they're going to be also guiding us through experiential worship and what this can look like at our kickoff retreat. So we're really excited to have them too. And then from within Anabaptist Disabilities Network, you have Jean Davies, our executive director. She's going to be leading trainings and sharing her expertise on disability theology and inclusive worship. And then you have myself, who, in addition to leading some workshops on creating cultures of belonging, will also be available for site visits for churches and one-on-one consultation throughout the duration of your project. So this is a team of experts that was put together really specifically to be supporting participating congregations throughout the next 5 years as they try new ways of worshiping and gathering together. So that just is one benefit and one thing that you'll receive when becoming an all-in congregation. The second thing is all expense covered retreats. I mentioned the kickoff retreat. Specifically, that's the one happening next April, where we'll get things started. And when we gather in person, all expenses are covered by the Lilly Grant. Third is $2,000 annually for supplies to expand your ministry. How your new ways of worship, how the All-In Project looks in your congregation will be different for everybody. So how this money is used is really up to your church and what you guys need. It could be used to buy supplies to help facilitate worship in a new way, like art supplies or worship instruments. It could be used for sensory accommodations, headphones, or sensory kits. It could even be a stipend for the person that's going to be leading charge in your congregation for this project. The options are kind of limitless with how you can use this money. And we really want it to be to whatever is the greatest need of your church. Next, you'll receive site visits and individualized support throughout the duration of this project. We'll have several ways that you can get feedback and input and support from ADN. And then lastly is what you'll receive is opportunity for networking and connecting with other church leaders who are also just really committed to seeing the church become a more inclusive place for all ages and abilities and experiences. And I'd like to add to this point is you're going to receive a lot of new relationships, a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a blast to build relationships together, to try new things, to share testimonies. We're going to have a lot of fun. And so that is also a bonus thing that you'll receive. Let's unpack now. You might be thinking that 5 years sounds like a really long time, or you might be nervous about making a commitment for the full duration of the 5 years. And so I want to provide a little insight into why it's 5 years. Change, especially change, as you guys know, I'm sure, change that brings others along and is collaborative, is a slow moving process. And we did not want to rush through that. And we didn't want to rush this project's work or for the project itself to feel like drinking from a fire hose. But with the duration of the 5 years, we really wanted this to be something sustainable that allows for long lasting change. And with the duration of the 5 years, for it to be manageable, so that it's not 1 year where you're so overwhelmed and, overburdened with the project, but it can be sustainable for you as leaders too. Let's talk more about what the work is and what the investment is for you. So what you'll put into this project. First, let's talk about participation in scheduled programming. I mentioned year one will kick off with an in-person retreat. This will be a 3-night retreat that 1 or 2 people from your congregation or committee will attend. In following years, it won't be an overnight retreat like that. This is really the longest one. It'll be regional gatherings for a day. So that's the in-person retreats. Second, participation is going to look like attending virtual gatherings. On the next slide, I'll show you what a year at a glance will look like for the project. But throughout the year, we'll have virtual trainings and workshops on topics such as trauma-informed ministry, universal design, godly play, messy church, and more that will help support your efforts. And so we'll have those virtual gatherings, and then we'll also have virtual small group coaching from Betty and Dave on navigating change and intergenerational faith formation. So that's the virtual gatherings that you'll participate in. Altogether, that comes out to between 1 to 3 hours of virtual content a month. And I'll show you in the next slide how that lays out. The second piece that you'll put in is gathering congregation input and evaluation through surveys. So at the beginning of the project, you'll do a congregation survey to collect data and get insight of what your congregation is really wanting, what their desires are. And then you'll also get input throughout the years to come, but the first one will be a wide survey. And then 3 is regular meetings with your local committee. So one thing that we ask you to do is to put together a committee of people from your church that can really support the efforts of this project. These are people that you can share the workload with, that you can review congregation surveys with, that you can dream with, and help put action to your vision. And so how often those meet, that's really up to you. Some phases of the project you might want to meet monthly, some it might want to meet more or less than that. So it's really that's up to how you and your committee work. But we wanted this to be a collaborative project on all levels. And lastly, what you will bring to this project is a willingness and an excitement to try new ways of worship. This is gonna, like I said, this is gonna be a lot of fun, and it's gonna require stepping out of your comfort zone and being willing to try new things, and share that with one another. So let's look now at what a year with All In can look like. Looking at the top, some of you might have seen this in a PDF version, but I'll just go through this first year together. This is an example. So starting in January through March, I'll be doing site visits for the churches that have joined the All In project. So you'll get a site visit from me and begin doing with your committee the congregation surveys and begin collecting input from your congregation. In April, if you're curious about dates, it's April 21st to 24th. We're having a 3-night kickoff retreat that is fully covered. And that'll be in Pennsylvania that we'll be gathering. In May, that's where our the rest of the year will really be virtual. So we'll have our first virtual training together. That'll be about between 1 to 2 hours long. June, you see the coaching session with Congregation Change. So that would be with Betty. That would be a small group of you meeting together online and for an hour. And then in July and August, you see that it's just the optional office hours. And so a little bit about that. The optional office hours is really just a time for you to join when you need to. It's optional. Come and you can share stories of testimony if you want to. You can come just to listen to other congregations share or ask questions. You can bring your challenges and ask others to help brainstorm with you. It's just a time for us to collaborate. Those will be an hour long, but also very much come and go. And then in September, there would be another virtual training. And just a note, the virtual trainings will change topic. So for next year, we're really working with Dr. Sarah Barton on trauma-informed ministry. in future years, those virtual trainings would be a different topic. And then the coaching sessions will finish out the year, and then nothing in December because December is crazy enough. And then just one last note, you'll see in February down here, it says the annual report is due. So every year, at the end of each year, you'll submit an annual report that will cover data from your past year. You'll share like 2 to 3 stories of testimony and what's going well and about the work that you've been doing in your congregation. And that'll be an online form that you'll submit. So that is a year at a glance. Trying to think if I missed anything about this. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about the applications and what comes after that. Applications are due and applications are open until October 31st. And so there's still plenty of time for you to submit that. You can find the link to the form at this link. It's on our website. Sarah, if you want to put that link in the chat, that could be helpful. And it'll be a Google form. And the 2 things that it'll ask you to submit is you'll answer a few questions, but then it'll also ask you to submit a pastoral letter of support and then the names of some of the committee members. We ask for the names of committee members because we're really trying to make sure that you have local community support to help support your project. After you submit your application, I'll follow up with you and we'll schedule a Zoom interview with myself and Jean. And then our hope is once we interview everybody, that we'll let congregations know by mid-November. And so that's a little bit about what the application process will look like. I'd love to spend the rest of my time, because I know I just threw a lot of information at you. So I'd love to open it up now for questions, curiosities that you've had, or specific to your congregation questions that you might have. And I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see you better.
To get us started, someone asked if you could share the slides. Is there a link you want me to share, or do you want to email folks later?
Yeah, the slides you said? Yes, I can send you a link later, or you can share. I'll send you the file later because right now it's still online.
That's fine. Or if it's on Canva, I can find it for you.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Oh, Katie,
like Katie has a question.
Go for it, Katie.
We are in a situation in Albuquerque where we have an interim pastor, and so I think she can write us a fine letter, but she doesn't know our congregation very well. Would it be more helpful to have a church moderator or the worship elder or Christian education elder or?
Yeah, you could have an elder or a moderator or someone who is in leadership at your church, and that makes sense. It could be nice to have both submitted, just
Right.
so, yeah, let me know you have congregation support.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Jessica?
Yes. So speaking of congregation support, do you have any materials or anything available so I can go back to my congregation to present this in hopes that I can get support so I can submit an application with our pastor?
Yeah, we do. We'll share, we'll drop some of the files in the chat that you can share. One of them will be just a generic flyer overviewing the whole project. And then we'll also share the what to expect flyer, which kind of covers some of those slides.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Suzanne, curious if the project mission would include theological diversity. For example, a family might have one parent who attends. Um, that's a great question. So we will have mostly Anabaptist, well, pretty much all Anabaptist congregations joining. But I can see that maybe being a seminar in the future that we would host. But it would largely be finding ways for the children to engage during the worship service. I think, Jean, if you have more thoughts on this specific question.
Excuse my glasses. I had cataract surgery. My eyes have had it for the day. But I would say that everyone is welcome, no matter where, what your theology and theological background is. Our materials are going to come from an Anabaptist background, and they're going to be, based on scripture. So, but it's not like, yeah. So I guess, Suzanne, I'm trying to understand your question. More. Can you say more?
Sure. I think that was very helpful. I guess we were just kind of brainstorming all the different ways we're diverse. And that was one that came up that I think, the family has kind of resolved by just having the one parent bring the kids. And so we thought if maybe there was some way that we could, and the kids, they'll like say and worship things that, they've heard from the other parent. And, we of course embrace them already, but I don't know if there might be a way to like incorporate that in our planning for our particular, situation and context.
Yeah, well, I definitely think it's worth considering how you as a congregation are going to build that into your particular program, right? And if you wanted to talk with our consultants about that or with us about that, we'd be glad to do that. It's going to look different in every congregation. And honestly, we've had congregations apply from all over the theological spectrum. And one of the beauties of this is that about disability is that it cuts across some of the divides that we have theologically. Yeah. And as I said before, our materials and what we present will come from a scripture-based Anabaptist perspective. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and I would add, like, some of our conversations on creating communities of belonging, I think would lend themselves helpful to what you're experiencing. But yeah, it will be, how it's applied will be different for every church. Pleasant View. When you are talking about worship, are you meaning worship service, Sunday school, kids church? Are those part of the project? We are looking for more individualized needs. When I talk about worship, we're talking about the Sunday worship service together more so than Sunday school. I don't want to limit how this looks for any specific church. And because how do you guys do Sunday school? You might want to be doing it all together, and that's how you find ways together as one. But yeah, we're finding ways to reimagine how we learn and worship God together, learn about and worship God together. If that helps.
Jessica had her hand up, and then Arthur.
Yes,
Be the
Jessica.
moderator.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I had some technology issues in the beginning, so I don't know if you covered this, so I do apologize if you have. Is there any requirements on the size? We have a very active but smaller congregation. We actually got a couple more new families, so we're up to like 10 kids, so it's super exciting. But I didn't know if there's a requirement size-wise.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. There is not a requirement size-wise. Having a really large church has its gifts, having a really small church has its gifts. And so, there's pros and cons with both, and each will encounter their challenges differently. So I think it definitely serves your congregation well to already have some children attending, whether that's 1 or 20, just so that you can be including children in the worship, but actual size is less of an important factor. Arthur?
Yeah, thanks. The questions that I've had from people that we've kind of been talking about this project with have really been pragmatic questions. So I think everyone's like, yes, we totally like buy into the idea of it, but so it was really helpful that you shared the dates for that retreat, right? That was a question that almost everyone asked me. And so kind of related to that is, kind of looking back on your kind of year, what it would look like, and I saw this kind of as a similar question in the comments, like which things are for which people? So for example, how many would you expect to go to the retreat? How many would come to the coaching? Just because I think we likely will have, I don't know, 6, 7 people. Do every one of them go to everything, or yeah? So maybe just to say a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So for the kickoff retreat, we would be offering for 1 to 2 people from your congregation to attend that from your committee. And then for the other virtual events, that would be open to more people from your committee. If like 3 people from your committee really wanted to come and learn about trauma informed ministry with us, that would be okay. And so some of those virtual ones, there'd be more allowment for. I would say the office hours and the coaching session would be more for the project leader in your church, just because the coaching sessions will be smaller groups and more targeted conversation. But yeah, so those virtual trainings could be open for your committee members. I'll add to, we're developing now for the project an online community where you guys can share resources, discussion, and talk with one another. And so we hope to have the trainings also saved and available on there so that you could share with others after the live viewing as needed.
Tell them the lights are on.
Are the lights on? What?
It's someone who just joined and the auto mute wasn't on.
Oh.
Jessica asked if there's a cost to join on the chat.
No, Jessica, there's not a cost to join. The only cost is enthusiasm and time.
I have both of that.
Yeah, as Jean mentioned in the chat, the reason why there's no cost to join is because the entire project is funded by the Lilly Foundation's endowment. How many congregations will be invited? So our cohort is going to be between 12 and 20 congregations. And so that number really comes out to who applies, if it's the right timing for congregations, do they have congregation support, is really how those decisions will be made. But it will be between 12 and 20 congregations invited. And then the question to having multiple cohorts, for this first pilot project, we won't have multiple cohorts, but we hope that what we learn from this can help future congregations after the 5 years are up. Keep them coming, Jessica.
I'm sorry. I just have lots of questions. So can you kind of is there any examples that you can give of what some of the congregations would be working on, how things would change, to get a better picture, so I could give examples to the congregation when I try to encourage them with enthusiasm?
Yeah, it could look like changing how you guys, so if you're studying a specific moment in scripture, it could look like, instead of the main way that you learn about that scripture to be through a 20 to 40-minute sermon, it could be sitting at round tables and discussing it. It could be acting it out. It could be having dramatization. It could be having an art or a way to engage with it tactily. It could be having multiples of those for one. And so it's making it a little bit more embodied. Yeah, there could be motions, songs, repetition, those types of things. Angela's question in the chat. I'm glad you asked this because I wanted to touch on it. How many are you expecting to have in each congregation committee? So on the application, we suggest having someone from the church leadership, a parent, a person with disability. We give you a couple different roles. I think it's total like 5. I'd like to add, that is a suggestion. If you have a congregation that's really small, maybe your committee has 3 people. If you have a congregation that has a ton of people that want to be on it, maybe it has 7. Really, we're looking for, are more people invested in this in your congregation than just you. So 3 to 5 is really my recommendation. But if you have a really large congregation, I can see it being more, or just a really enthusiastic congregation. From Pleasant View, if we don't get chosen for the first year, do we need to wait for 5? Jean, do you want to talk a little bit? Because it's uncertain that we'll have a second cohort after the 5. I think this is something that we hope is really successful, that we can continue. But Jean, I'll let you share more about that.
Yeah, so really this 12 to 20 pilot congregations is helping us, as I put in the chat, do this innovative work, which we're at the forefront of, right? You would be at the forefront of this work. There aren't a lot of congregations who are doing this. There are a few, but there aren't a lot of congregations doing this. So the grant is a 5-year grant, and it's a 5-year project funded by Lilly. So we assume that after that, we'll have a body of resources that we will continue to offer to other congregations and support them in trying this themselves. But I don't know that there will be another cohort like this. Partly because this project, Lilly funded this project to the tune of $1.25 million. And those resources are being used for all of the resources that we're offering to you, right? So that'd be great if they want to do that again after 5 years. But yeah, we won't count our chickens.
Well said. Are there any other questions? I don't want to rush anybody. If there's no other questions, I just wanted to add, like, on a closing note, that if you're really thinking that your congregation has like a unique situation that you'd like to talk about or get input on, I'm more than happy to meet over phone or Zoom and have a more pointed conversation about your church's involvement. I can put my email in the in the chat, and feel free to reach out with any of those questions. And yes, October 31st is the deadline. But yeah, so I'll throw my email in the chat. It's spelled right. And yeah, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you guys. It's so encouraging to see 27, to see all of you guys here. We're really excited about the enthusiasm that this project has received, and just think it's going to be awesome. So thanks for joining. And oh, where can you access this recording? That's a great question, because I hadn't planned on recording it until now, but we will make it available. If you would like it, for now, in short, email me and I'll make it available to you, but we'll find a way to share it as well.
Sarah, would we post that on our webinar page?
Yeah, there you go. It'll be on our list.
We can do that.
Can we share the link to our webinar page and then people can just go there?
Yeah.
I made a special page for ADN Conversation, so I'll post the link here. Yeah.
Sarah is on it.
But yeah, thanks guys for coming, and I look forward to seeing your online applications.